Guys, in today's video, we are going to talk about whether or not an MBA is worth it for you. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Katie. I'm a coach at Career Sprout. We do job search coaching. On average, it takes us about 63 days to help somebody land a higher paying job at a company they really admire. Average salary bumps are about $37,000 in that time. So I like to tell people when I'm extremely biased, and MBAs, PhDs is a subject that I am now extremely biased based on my personal experience. And I like to give that as a caveat. We're all different. Everybody's on different paths. But I am extremely biased because I am somebody who I was able to make $300,000 by the time I was 25 without an MBA. And I actually wanted both an MBA and a PhD. And I was really fortunate that when I was 22 years old, I had a mentor sit me down and lay out an alternative path for me that I didn't even know existed before that point. And I find this is true. We've had a lot of folks come to us over the last couple of months because they're worried and they're not really sure what the future holds. So their intentions are in the right place. And they say, man, I'm not exactly sure what I want to do. I want to increase my earning capacity, but I'm not sure how to do it. So I think I'll go back to school and get an MBA or a PhD, and that's going to give me what I need to have a higher earning capacity and more knowledge, which I would argue is all very good intentions. Maybe I'm just arguing that because that was how I felt. But what my mentor laid out for me, and I was so fortunate that this happened for me when I was 22. So hopefully, it doesn't matter how old you are, hopefully this will shortcut anybody who is like me or you can relate to this story. Hopefully this is as helpful for you as it was for me. My mentor laid out for me the cost. So I did some research on what the costs are for an MBA now and what the salaries look like. So average cost of an MBA is about 60 grand, which is quite a bit because your average starting salary after undergrad right now is about 52 grand. So for you to chalk up an extra 60 grand after doing your undergrad, and of course there's a range for all of these things, that's quite a commitment. But you could argue it's a good investment because the average starting MBA salary is about $115,000. The median salary aggregate of over all the MBAs is about $135,000. So you are essentially doubling or even close to tripling your earning potential by getting an MBA, which is really appealing to a lot of people. It's very appealing to me. Here's the caveat though. That sounds great until you lay it up to alternatives of what are the alternatives to getting an MBA. The only alternative is, it's not just, okay, do I follow the traditional, $50,000 job and then hopefully I'm getting these pay bumps whether it's through promotions or switching jobs every couple of years, and I'm working my way up to 100,000, or can I shortcut that with an MBA, even though it's going to cost a lot of money? In my head, those were the only two options that really existed until this mentor gave me a third option, which was hands down the best advice I ever got, which was to go find somebody who is doing exactly what you are doing in life. Now, this is going to be different for everybody. I am somebody that I knew fairly early on that I wanted to run a business. So because I had that as my goal, I started reaching out to cold outreach to Fortune 500 C-level executives, small business owners, heads of companies, heads of departments, things like that. I just started reaching out to them and saying, hey, you are exactly where I want to be 5, 10, 20, 30 years down the road, depending on who they were. Is there anything that you wish you knew 5, 10, 20, 30 years ago? And that one message got me mentors who had exactly what I wanted in life. And when they responded to that message, they knew that they were giving me advice that would help me. And here's a funny thing about mentorship, and I'm sure you can imagine this for yourself. If somebody reached out to you and said, hey, you're exactly where I want to be. Like, you went to this school, you went to this university, you got this job, and now it looks like you're crushing it. I would love to be doing that 5 years from now. Do you have any advice, or is there anything you wish you knew 5 years ago? You would be so flattered, or I should say most people would be so flattered if they got that message, and you would be so willing to help that person and, want to give back to that person who I'm sure you've had people along the way that have helped you. So by sending that message out, I was able to land roles within organizations who taught me exactly what it was, each of the skills, tangible and intangible skills that I needed to be able to earn the income I wanted, to be able to make the impact I wanted, which was far more important to me, and to be able to do it on a timeline that I did not even know was possible. It took me about 18 months, technically 24 months if you count. It depends where you mark the start date there. Let's call it 2 years. It took me about 2 years to accomplish all of the goals that I had set for retirement, just because I did not know what was possible. I thought the hardest or most impactful path was going to be getting an MBA, getting a PhD, getting these things. And so it wasn't until I just was veered off, or somebody, shifted my shoulders to look, yeah, that's one path, but here's an alternative path that you're going to work your butt off. It's going to be hard. However, you will out earn every MBA if you just put your head down and you work. And they told me for 3 years. And that is exactly what happened. And every time I have given that advice to somebody who takes it, I have watched it happen over and over and over again. And it's funny, a lot of folks come to us, and when they're coming to us, it's always in the midst of a job search. Either they're in the middle of a job search, or they are thinking about a job search and they're just terrified, or they're not sure where to start. And a lot of them have that inkling of like, maybe I should just go back to school for whatever it is. And the interesting part is that the people who decide to work with us, they learn a lot of intangible skills, or I shouldn't say intangible. They learn both tactical and strategic skills, not about how to just land their next job, but how to think about their life as a whole. That's always where we start. And that one skill, or that one tactic of thinking about your life as a whole and what it is that you really want, and being able to reverse engineer that back to, okay, this is the next best step for me. That action alone is enough to get somebody to think differently, speak differently about themselves, and they're able to increase their salary typically within 2 months. You don't have to wait the 2-3 years of an MBA. Within 2 months, they're typically landing job offers that are $37,000 on average above where they are currently at. And sometimes it's way more than that. We actually had somebody, this is a perfect example. Typically we wouldn't work with somebody like this, but she was she was happy, she was humble, she was hungry, which are the 3 things we really look at. And you could just tell she had this I know what I want to be, I know who I want to be inside of her. And she had just gotten out of a PhD program. She stopped it because she realized, hey, I'm making $30,000 a year. I still have X amount of years of school left, paying X amount, and I know there's got to be a better way. Now, she was way smarter than me. She figured that out on her own. But then she came to us, and it did. It took, I don't know the exact number of days, but roughly 2 months, where she is now. She was at $32,000, and she is now getting offers for $104,000 plus. So that is $70,000 pay increase just by being aware that there are alternative paths out there. And I see this far more frequently. I mean, she's a unique human. She's somebody, if we get permission, we'll highlight her publicly because she's going to do some special things. But more often, the folks who come to us, they're doing that $150,000, $200,000 in that range. And they're like, how do I get to, I've been here, I'm stuck here. How do I get the skills to go to the next level? How do I get those $300,000 roles? How do I go beyond that? And again, it's not always just about the money. It's not always about the comp. It's about that lifestyle as well. The work-life harmony, we like to call it, where it's like your career, you're doing something meaningful with a company that you really love, and it's supporting your personal life. A lot of times people get that backwards, and they try to, fit their personal life in and around their professional life, and it leads to a lot of unhappiness with a lot of folks. So this is a bit of a rant, I know, but I was just hoping to just shed a different light. I think this is not common for what's out there. When people talk about, increasing and learning, always improving, I think oftentimes we jump immediately to school just because that's what's familiar. That's what I did. And I just wanted to let people know, there are other paths out there that are far less expensive, that have far better returns on investment for both your time and your financial investments. So hopefully that saves somebody $60,000 down the road. If you've got follow-up questions, or you feel like your situation's a little unique, feel free to shoot me an email. You can just katie@careersprout.com. I'm more than happy to dive into, specifics on your situation. But at the very least, hopefully this helps at least plant some seeds of a different perspective that is out there. And I will talk to you guys soon.